All right, welcome to my talk. I hope you all have been enjoying the conference. This is my second time here. First time was in 2019, so it was in the before times. I gave 3 talks in 3 days. We'll never do that again. But it's a great time, a great conference, a lot of great people. So, if you're here for learning how to play tabletop role-playing games, you're in the right place. If you're looking for the ham radio exam, I'm sorry to say you missed it. So this is going to be a semi-hands-on workshop, because when I asked the event staff how many people to expect, they said it could be anywhere from 10 to 100. Now, I'll go ahead and skip ahead in my slides, but how many people have played D&D, Pathfinder, Savage Worlds, or any type of tabletop role-playing game? So about half of you. So, a typical table is about 6 to 8 people, one of which is the DM or the GM, and the others are players. We'll get into that here in a minute. I don't know about you, but 10 brand new players and 1 DM is not a great formula when you have 45 minutes to do a workshop, especially if it's 100 people. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to try and run a table with 100 people. So this is going to be a semi-hands-on workshop. I also didn't know how many DMs I might end up with in the room, so my idea of setting up small tables around the room and having DMs run a one-shot that I wrote also out. So this will be a very improvised, there's the word I'm looking for. This will be a very improvised, semi-hands-on workshop. Now, if that's not enough qualifiers, I work in marketing and would be more than happy to come up with a few more. If you don't know me, my name is Eric the IT Guy Hendricks. I've worked at places from GitLab to Red Hat to currently a developer advocate at CIQ, which is funny because I came up in the industry as a systems administrator. I don't speak developer, but that's my title. I'm also an adjunct professor, and I'm really excited that I found a lot of people here that also teach a college class for no other reason than it's kind of fun. Here's my disclaimer slide. This is something that I've never attempted before. I've given dozens of talks across 3 continents now, but never have I tried to do something like we're going to attempt tonight. So if it's an epic fail, congratulations, we blew up Doc's time machine, and we'll never do that again. But if you have constructive feedback, disclaimer, it sucks is not constructive feedback. If you have constructive feedback about how to improve the session, please, for the love of God, talk to me afterwards. I would love to improve this. So many people I know, because I talk often on podcasts, webinars, blogs that I use technology to play D&D, and people ask me, well, how do I get started? How do I play? So I do what any good developer advocate, aka technical marketer, would do, and I wrote a session. All right, so here's my poll question that I already opened with. I've got a few experienced players and only, how many people have been a DM or a GM? Yeah, so my plan would not have worked. Look at me being smart and coming prepared. So, I kind of, pretty much all of you are here for my Purple Grass Tavern story, which my friends will be ecstatic to know made it into my talk. But I included this slide as kind of a why. Some of my favorite stories, some of my favorite nights spent with friends, family, never actually happened. Why? Because we were in a made-up world with made-up powers, with made-up characters, with made-up backstories, with made-up names, and we sit around a table for hours drinking and eating, usually adult beverages, and just collaboratively telling a story together. It is so much fun. Have you ever wanted to inject yourself into a movie and be part of the plot? Have you ever read one of those choose-your-own-adventure novels? Guess what? You can write your own. And that is the beauty of tabletop role-playing games. Is collaborative storytelling, I wrote down rules, and now I'm kind of wishing I would have put framework. Because any experienced DM will tell you that half the rules they make up on the spot. I'm one of them. Why did I ask you to roll stealth? Because I feel like it. Again, don't peeve off the DM. So, What is a tabletop role-playing game, or TTRPG? Now, much like the tissue and Kleenex world, a lot of people say D&D when they just mean TTRPG. So when you sit down, first off, you spend weeks trying to decide who is going to DM, who's going to host, and how often are you going to play. Congratulations, shared calendars are a wonderful, wonderful thing. Eventually, you just sit down, look at the calendar, and go, okay, we're going to play every other Thursday. Sam's going to host, Eric's going to DM, let's go. When you get the logistics figured out, and as adults it is fun, one person runs the world. One person is the game master or dungeon master, DM, GM. Those are usually used interchangeably. Everyone else creates a player character, a PC. A lot of us have heard of NPCs from the video game world, but if you are a person who is not the DM, you create a character. And we'll go through that exercise tonight. And I have about 8 or 9 questions that we're going to go through, and there's like 8 or 9 people in here, so it's great. Congratulations, you're all part of the show. Now, I said it is collaborative storytelling with a framework. Not rules, framework. Dice resolve those situations. You come across a tree that's down, or you come across a locked door. It's no fun if you just say, I walk up, I produce a key that I didn't justify where said key come from, I'll unlock the door. No, where's the fun in that? Failure is fun. Sometimes hysterical. So dice resolves conflict. That can be combat, that can be charisma checks, like if I'm talking to all of you on a microphone at 7:45 at night, and I want to make all of you enjoy my talk, I would roll a charisma check. I put in there's no screen, but what's funny is the first thing that all of my players and I do is pull out our laptops or our iPads. So you can play D&D without a screen. As a player, I try and play without a screen, just because I do this all day. And so I'm much happier with pen, paper, and physical dice. If you have an addictive personality, stay away from collecting dice. I have, in my multi-chambered dice bag, I have no less than 10 complete sets of gaming dice. And I'm still collecting. It's a problem. So, as I mentioned, Dungeons & Dragons is often used as, I have a clicker. This is my talk, welcome. So I mentioned that Dungeons & Dragons, oh goodness, it's been a long day. I mentioned that Dungeons & Dragons is often used as a blanket term for TTRPGs. So, Dungeons & Dragons is not the only option, but it is the one that people usually hear about the most. In Dungeons & Dragons, you have a class. You're a fighter, you're a wizard, you're a cleric, and those classes usually dictate your profession, usually dictate some character tropes that you might see, and those classes are then mixed with a level. You can be level 1 and you can fight off an angry beaver, or you can be level 20 and fight an ancient gold dragon, and everything in between. And then there's ability scores, and then there's the reminder that Eric didn't silence his notifications. Again, welcome to my talk. You never know what's going to happen. Usually neither do I. All right, so there's classes, there's levels, and ability scores. So a fighter is not necessarily going to be, typically, the smartest one in the bunch. Oftentimes, you may not want your fighter to be the face of your party, the one that does all the talking. But when the dice are down and there's a big stone golem ahead of your party, you probably want the fighter to go out swinging something very large and something very sharp. So D&D is built off of classes, levels, and ability scores. Dungeons & Dragons is well known for having deep, very ingrained technical combat. If you see a D&D character sheet, which I should have included a screenshot, there are literally dozens of skills, 6 ability scores, there's proficiency, there's double proficiency, there's immune to damage, there's resistance to damage, there's vulnerable to damage. It is very, very deeply ingrained. Any of my D&D players, can I get an amen? It's a lot to keep track of. If you crave structure, if you really like to be engrossed in a game, if you like playing Axis and Allies, you might enjoy Dungeons and Dragons. And just a footnote, if TTRPGs are Linux, D&D would be the Ubuntu of the world. One of the other systems that's gained a lot of popularity as of late is Savage Worlds. It's put out by PEG Inc. or PEG Inc. One of the nice things is Dungeons and Dragons is basically fantasy. They've made some inroads into science fiction, but it's more or less just a high fantasy system. We have gnomes, we have dwarves, we have elves. It's basically Lord of the Rings on the tabletop. Savage Worlds, one of the reasons why I enjoy Savage Worlds is it's genre agnostic. The core rulebook, the Savage Worlds core rules, are built to not care where you are. You can be in space, you can be on a planet, you can be underwater, you can be in high fantasy, high technology, or any combination of the above. What's nice is, and they're probably best known for Deadlands, which is a horror-based Western setting with magic. It's a lot of fun. Instead of, there is a leveling system in Savage Worlds, but instead of having ability scores, you actually have different dice that you roll. You always roll a d6, this is called a wild die, and you then roll a dice chain on a skill ladder. So if you're completely unfamiliar with something, maybe you're from the Old West and you find a high-tech space computer, you'd be rolling a d4 minus 2. So you roll a dice with 4 sides on it. That's how we identify our dice, is a D4 has 4 sides. So you roll a D4, which hurt more than Legos when you step on them at night, minus 2. So the best you can do, at best, is a 2. But if you're really, really proficient, you are the creator of this computer, you could roll a D12 and a D6 and take the higher of the 2. So if I roll a 12 on the D12, not only is that higher than the D6 can roll, but what's really cool about Savage Worlds is your dice can explode. What this means is if you roll the highest number on that die, in my example, a D12, I roll a 12, that dice exploded, I get to roll it again and add them together. What's really fun, and I've done this multiple times, is when you roll a D12 and you get a 12, and then you roll a D12 and you get a 12. You're up to 24. Then you roll a D12 and get, say, a 6. You end up with the ability to do 30 damage, or you hit 30 to ascertain what ancient ruins mean, things like that. Exploding dice are so much fun, especially when it's 10:30 at night, everyone's tired, and the big bad will not die, and you finally roll a 30. Which, by the way, in Savage Worlds, the average number to beat is a 4. So different things can add to that. So if you're trying to hit something, you roll a d4, a 4 is a success, unless it's wearing armor, which may give it +2, in which case you need a 6. It's a lot of fun. One of the other interesting things about Savage Worlds is bennies. This is a meta currency. So if you do something really heroic, or if you make the DM laugh, you can be awarded a benny, and that's like a free reroll. That's a chance that you can spend a benny to get a piece of information from the DM to help solve a puzzle. It's a meta currency within the game. It's a lot of fun. I actually play a gentleman by the name of Merle James Abraham Dixon every other Friday night in a Savage Worlds campaign that we've been playing for 3 years now. He's a gunfighter who's really good with a rifle. So it's a lot of fun. If you can't tell, this is my favorite TTRPG system. I love it. I can talk to you all day and all night about why it's better than D&D. I will die on that hill, so help me. But it's not the only system out there. One of the others, and what's featured in tonight's workshop, is a system called Powered by the Apocalypse. It's a fairly new system, but it's designed to be the unsystem. It's designed to give you just enough rules that your table ends up telling a fun story instead of breaking into arguments over whether or not the archer has half cover, 3/4 cover, or full cover. It happens, I've been there. If you're a rule lawyer, please leave the room. The idea is to tell a much more compelling story, the focus being more on the story and less on the mechanics. So if you've heard of Monster of the Week, Masks, Blades in the Dark, or tonight's feature, Dungeon World, These are all based on Powered by the Apocalypse. Now, some others that you might have heard of: Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, Kids on Brooms. A new one that's gained a lot of popularity lately is Daggerheart. One that I found for my kids, in fact, if you search, I want to play D&D with my kids, you might come across No Thank You Evil. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you have youngsters that can't count more than 6. And then one I'm really, really, really excited about. Any Brandon Sanderson fans in the room? Wow, tough crowd. All right, Brandon Sanderson writes a lot of novels, and a lot of them are set within a universe because everyone has to have a multiverse now. A lot of his books are set in a universe called the Cosmere, and last year they released on Kickstarter the Cosmere RPG. So books that I've been listening to on audiobooks for years, mostly while traveling by plane to events like this, I can now run a campaign in. So I cannot wait to run Cosmere RPG. So those are some honorable mentions. All right, here's the fun part. I should have threatened that I had like 30 or 60 slides before we got into the fun part, but it's actually only 12. So, how do I play? Okay, I mentioned Dungeon World is the flavor of the night. Let's face it, it would take us 3 hours to go through all the basic mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons. And if we're lucky, that 3 hours may include creating characters. And so by about midnight tonight, we'd be running a one-shot that none of us want to play anymore, and we just want to go to bed. So tonight's feature is Dungeon World. It's based on Powered by the Apocalypse. It's set in a high fantasy setting, although you could probably adapt it to non-fantasy settings as well. There's no initiative, which, by the way, I mentioned this when we were talking about D&D. Initiative is basically how you determine turn order. So instead of 6 people telling the DM, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, we take turns. We go around the table, and every player character and every NPC, non-player character, draws, in Savage Worlds, you draw a playing card. In D&D, you roll a 20-sided dice. There's no map grid, so no counting 6 squares to see if you walk 30 feet or not. And the GM, this is why I picked it, the GM actually doesn't roll any dice. The GM just sits back and kind of guides the narration, kind of guides the story. The players have all the power. It's one of their calls to fame is it's designed to get to the interesting stuff fast. Again, why I'm using it tonight. How does Dungeon World work? All right, so we talked about it. We talked about D6, or we talked about different kinds of dice. There's D4s, D6s, D8s, D10s, D12 percentile dice, and D20s. I'm missing one, I think. Maybe. So in Dungeon World, all you need is a pair of D6s. So if you have a Monopoly game sitting around that no one wants to play anymore because mom always wins, you have 2 D6s. Now, the way to decide what happens is I mentioned that the GM doesn't have any dice. In a lot of these games, it's a roll-off between the player and the DM. I'd roll one thing to defend, you'd roll another to attack, and the higher wins. Go figure. But in Dungeon World, what is really nice is the GM doesn't roll. So instead, each of you as a player would have 2d6, and if you roll 10, 11, or 12, that's a success. If you roll between 7 and 9, that's a success with a complication. That means the GM gets to decide that something bad happens. Maybe you take damage, maybe the bad guy gets a little bit further away carrying away the princess, but there's a complication. If you roll 6 or lower, the GM gets to decide, and it's going to be worse than a complication. Maybe you take a lot of damage. Maybe you lose your weapon. Maybe another bad guy comes up and does damage to you as well. And guess what? The fun thing is, that slide, it's most of the rule book. That's most of what you need to know to play Dungeon World. It's fantastic. So what does the GM do? The GM builds the world. So if we're playing on Tatooine, for my Star Wars nerds, I would tell you that we're on a distant planet far away from everything, and there's nothing but sand in every direction. There's these weird little bear-like things with glowing eyes that wear hoods. I would describe to you what the world looks like, because maybe not all of you have visited Tatooine and Star Wars A New Hope and all the others, because we can't seem to get away from Tatooine. But that's another talk. I would ask you questions about the world. Who's in it? What's going on? What are the major powers in this world? Depending on how deep we wanted to build the lore of our world, I would ask you questions and we would build the world together, which we're going to do. And then we'd start playing. The GM would come up with some kind of a narrative. Could be a horror, could be a mystery, could be just straight up hack and slash. The fun thing, if you ever do GM or DM, you don't win TTRPGs. It's about having fun, making up stories in places that don't exist. I have so many DMs that set out to destroy their players or take away every player advantage or make sure that by some weird law of physics that isn't necessarily in the DM guide, I see a few smirks, so people know DMs that are like this. Let your players have fun. They spent time building a cool character that does cool things. Put them in situations where your players can do cool things. All right. Now, audience participation time. A few of you got nervous. All right, so what are we doing? We're going to build a bit of one-shot together right here, right now. I have a few ideas, but for the most part, you all get to determine the story. And me as the idiot with the microphone get to try and figure out how to turn that into an actual tale. I'm going to go around the room and look for volunteers. Just shout it out real loud. I'll repeat it into the microphone so everyone can hear, so don't worry. As long as I can hear you, everyone else will know what you said. We're going to come up with a character class, a name, a location, a villain, what the villain wants, and then we'll play around for a little bit until people get tired or I get enough of you interested that maybe we sit down and roll some dice. All right, audience participation. Number 1, the hero. Someone give me a class. Are we a fighter, a wizard, a thief, cleric, ranger, or a bard? If I need to explain any of these, just raise your hand and I can kind of go through real quick at what each of these classes are. Wizard, all right. I had a feeling. All right, so we are a wizard. All right, someone else, I need a name. This is a family-friendly conference, so please keep your names family-friendly. Ethan. Ethan the wizard. All right. That's okay. I had a friend of mine who is fond of whimsical names, and once, just because he could, built a barbarian named Barb. Barb the Barbarian. All right, so we have Ethan the Wizard. And so now I can actually jump over here to our character sheet, which will come back to that screen. All right, so this is where life gets interesting here. See, I had to come prepared. There it is, there's the wizard. All right, so now we need to pick a race. And what's nice, any of my D&D players that haven't seen Dungeon World character sheets? That's it. That's it. Let's see. All right, so there we go. So we can be, looks like an elf or a human. All right, somebody on this side of the room, elf or human? Elf. All right, so we have Ethan the elf wizard. I love it. And what's really great about Dungeon World is, if you're terrible at naming things, most of us work in product and we're terrible at naming things, it gives you some ideas. We could have been Avon, Morgan, Wrath, some others that I can't pronounce, or Uri. But instead, we are Ethan the elf wizard. I dig it. I assume Ethan is a male. How old is Ethan? Someone on this side.
97.
97. As an elf, he's in his prime. All right. So we have Ethan, the elf wizard, who's 97 years old. Okay, then. This must be a midlife crisis career change, because we're a level 1 wizard right now. See, this is fun. Okay, all right. I might have to submit this talk to Texas Linux Fest now. All right, so someone in the back or beyond, tell me about the world. Where are we? Are we in a city, a village, farmlands? Give me a locale. Someone in the back, couple of rows. You've been voluntold.
Village.
We're in a village. Okay. I like it. All right, so somebody on the left half of the room. What's something weird about our village? What's something, maybe not weird, what's something unique about our village? There's a tiki bar? All right. All right, so now I got to ask you a follow-up question. Does Ethan frequent or avoid said tiki bar? All right, he's a frequent. All right, so all my D&D people in the room just went, oh boy, we're going to start in a bar. Which, by the way, celebrate the tropes. Just about every good D&D campaign worth playing, you start out in a tavern. All right, somebody on this far right side of the room. What is the name of this? All right, I'll give you the choice. You can either name the tiki bar or name the village. Second row, right here.
Let's see. The tiki bar is Fiddlesticks Tiki Bar.
The Fiddlesticks Tiki Bar. I love it. All right, somebody in the middle section. So one of you four, give me a name for our village. Don't you dare. All right, say that louder. Ottamatawak. I hate all of you. Wait, I have to take that back. I have to apologize. I did this to myself. All right. Now, someone in the front two rows. Actually, pause for a second. Bonus points if you can tell me who that is in the top right corner.
The Joker.
Not the Joker. Strahd. He is one of the most fearsome vampire villains in all of Dungeons and Dragons. So if you ever play The Curse of Strahd, you'll get to face him at some point. But that's not our villain tonight, at least I hope not. Someone in the front two rows, give me a villain. Bob the villain. Bob and Ethan are going to face off. This is going to be great. All right, so somebody in the second two rows, what is Bob's motivation? What is he after? He's after tacos. He's after the tiki bar tacos. Okay. All right, and to let you know more about how my mind works and probably why I am drawn to D&D is my brain just went, we're building plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants. But instead of the this is what I get for going off script. The Krabby Patty. Instead of trying to steal the secret Krabby Patty recipe, Bob the villain is trying to steal the Fiddlesticks Tiki Bar taco recipe. I love it. The Tiki Tavern Turtle Tacos.
Yes.
I'm going to lay in bed tonight wondering why, questioning my life choices. Is someone writing this down? Because I should have been. All right, so my experienced D&D player is taking notes on our session. I love it. If you do play D&D and you can tell that the DM is actually putting a lot of time and effort into naming NPCs and places and coming up with cool situations, write it down. It'll probably come back to haunt you later. All right, so where does Ethan find himself? Yes, we're starting out at a bar, because that's what you do in D&D. So what's the inciting incident? We've got Bob who's trying to steal the recipe for the something turtle, the 4 T's. The
4T I like actually. The 4T tacos.
Well, except that's redundant because tacos is one of the T's. The taco tacos. All right, so what's going on? Somebody set the scene for me.
I thought that was your job. The turtles are missing.
Yeah.
The turtles are missing.
So they can't make the
Bob
tacos.
takes all the turtles so they can't get the tacos.
Perfect. All right. So for those of you that didn't hear, Bob has successfully stolen all the turtles that are the secret ingredient for our 4T taco tacos. Do I hear triple? Do I hear triple? Anybody? If we were playing Savage, you could spend a penny. All right. So
hold on. Other than us bringing a character that we've already created, you would have created all this as the game master, right? All the stuff we just did.
yes and no.
As a team.
Yes and no.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's a great question. For those of you that couldn't hear, I forgot my job as the guy with the microphone. I did this myself. All right. So the question was, isn't it the DM's job to kind of build the world, to paint the picture, to set the scene? Yes and no is my answer, because I work in marketing, and that's how we roll. No dice, pun intended, although that works out too. So here's my answer is twofold, and I'll explain the yes and the no. There's a couple of ways in all of these game systems to run a game. There are modules, some of them are decades old. Like Tyranny of Dragons is made up of two very classic adventures called Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. So I mentioned playing Deadlands every other Friday, which is a Savage World system where I'm a player. The world is set in the Weird West, which is the Wild West, but with magic and monsters. And we started out playing a pre-written module, but my GM really likes telling stories of his own. And so we've gone more into what's called homebrew, where the DM or the GM writes their own tale. So you have preset modules where you literally go through the book, and if you're a new DM, I highly recommend using one of the pre-built modules. If by chance you ignored high school chemistry, high school biology, trigonometry, and instead were writing short stories in your own created universe, you might want to build your own story. Guilty, by the way. So when you get experienced, if you really enjoy creating worlds, if you really enjoy writing stories, you might want to do what's called a homebrew, where you create the world yourself and you introduce it to your players just like you're starting out a brand new novel. That's the yes to my answer to your question. The original question, in case you forgot, was, isn't it my job as the DM to paint the picture, to set the scene, to come up with the scenarios? Yes, and now the no. Dungeon World is specifically designed to where the GM is not all powerful. The GM is there as a guide, is there to mediate disputes, but it's collaborative storytelling. So everyone in the room gets to build the world. As best as I could, I kind of tried to divide all of you up to get you each to have something that you attributed to the world that we're now in, except for the name of the town, which I've completely forgotten and will not try to pronounce ever again. Cannot believe I talked to both of you about. Anyway. No, it's fun. We've got Ethan, our 97-year-old level 1 elf wizard, who's hanging out at the Fiddlesticks Tiki Bar inside the town that formerly was known as Ni. Okay, good.
Mato Walk.
There you go. And that's just down the road from Automatopoeia. So yes and no. And that's really up to the party. When we started my Dungeons and Dragons campaign about 1.5 years ago, I had a bunch of new players. None of them knew if they were going to stick around. None of them really wanted to do storytelling. They just wanted to play a game with friends. And so I started out doing Dungeons and Dragons, a pre-built module where we went through the book. The problem is, and my D&D nerds will understand what I'm saying here. If you have questions, feel free to ask, because we're way off script already. Welcome to my talk. So we started out doing a pre-built module. But Tyranny of Dragons is designed for a bunch of lawful good players. They do what's good, they do what's right because it's right, and because they can do something about something that's wrong to make it right. Lawful good. They're the good guys, they will always be the good guys, they will always stop at red lights, all the things. My party is a bunch of demon-possessed chaos monkeys. Put a different way, if there's some random clue that they think they found, they will beat that clue into submission until me as the DM is just like, Fine, I guess you run a tavern now. Or, I don't know how many ways I can tell you in the last 30 minutes, no matter how many rooms you investigate, no matter how many footprints you look at, the place is deserted. There's no one here. So, because I have a bunch of demon-possessed chaos monkeys that go around and burn down villages and claim taverns as their own, I had to come up with, on the fly, a completely different approach to Tyranny of Dragons. So, in Tyranny of Dragons, you are trying to prevent a cult of dragon worshippers from pulling back a 5-headed ancient dragon who may or may not have helped create the universe that you live in. She's currently in the 9th circle of hell, and your job is to stop these cultists from drawing her back into the physical plane. So instead, because my party refused to be lawful good to any stretch of the imagination, I burned the world to the ground. It was epic. One night, it was mostly DM narration, where I explained the fact that they failed in their mission, the intelligence that they'd gathered about the cult never got back to the Order of the Gauntlet, and the cultists succeeded in their ritual to call Tiamat, the 5-headed dragon queen, back to the material plane. She then wreaked havoc on the world, burned down Neverwinter, is currently assaulting Waterdeep. Baldur's Gate is no longer a bustling metropolis, but is instead the largest refugee camp known to man. And guess what? The cultists won, you lost, and now it's been 12 months, and your characters all have PTSD. Welcome to your new world. Note my previous slide where I said don't peeve off the DM. But it's been fun. It's been fun because no longer are we following the pre-written module. No longer am I as the DM, as the herder of cat storyteller, bound by a pre-written module. So all that to say, yes, it is the DM's job to kind of paint that picture, but also no. The players also very, very much determine the course of the story. How about that for a 10-minute answer to your question? I have more. But we are... My short-term memory is kicking in here, or kicking out. So we have Ethan, our 97-year-old level 1 elf wizard at a tiki bar that has just been robbed of its turtles, which are the secret ingredient meat to our 4T tacos, which is, in true Linux fashion, a redundant acronym. How about that? All right. So now, as the DM, you all are now Ethan, and as the DM, I get to be everyone else you talk to. So this is where my semi-interactive workshop breaks down, but we're going to try it for a few minutes, let you guys roll some dice, and we'll see how this works. All right, so Ethan, you walk up to your favorite hangout. It's Friday night. You've just been training all week under, somebody give me a name. We already have Bob. Larry. Oh, gosh. You've been training all week with Larry, the wizard mage of the city that shall not be named. Automata Walk. Is that actually how it's said? Automata Walk?
I don't know, we just saw it on the roadside one day and it sounded like I had a stroke trying to read it.
All right, so that may or may not have been the original name. It is now. Automata Walk is now the name of the village. So you've been training under Larry, the wizard mage, all week. You're exhausted, you're hungry, maybe a little hangry. And as you're walking down the main drag, which is just a dirt road, stub your toe on a rock. It's a small village, 3 or 4 square blocks, nothing like Metropolis, which is 100 miles away, which I just pulled that out of Superman. That's what happens when you improv, you get some weird stuff. But as you're looking forward to drinking your favorite dark ale and having maybe a half a dozen 4T tacos tonight, you're gonna at least match your record. You're gonna have at least half a dozen. You notice that there's smoke coming from the back of the tavern. It's dark, it's thick, and it's blocking the setting sun behind the mountains behind them. What do you do?
Take off running towards the smoke.
All right, so you're going to run towards the fire. Okay. So Ethan, as you run towards the fire, you hear shouts. You see people scrambling about. You see that the town has already gathered. They've got water pails. They're running to Farmer Ben's irrigation system and filling up water buckets and handing it down the line to the next person, trying to get this fire out. And as you walk up, you see the town leader. Your town's not big enough to have a mayor, but he's kind of the chairman. He organizes the Secret Santa every year, because in our world we still have Secret Santa. So you see him standing there kind of directing traffic. Do you walk up to him and ask him what's going on, or do you grab a bucket of water and help put out the fire? What's Ethan doing about now?
Can we summon weather?
I'm sorry, say again?
Can we summon weather as a mage?
We're a level 1 wizard, probably not. I mean, well, hold on here. Let's find out. Actually, that's a great question. Let's consult our character sheet, which normally we'd fill in these 6 boxes, but for sake of brevity, because I like telling stories and spent most of our time together telling stories. So we would actually roll intelligence to cast a spell, but as a wizard, you have leveled spells. And as a level 1 wizard, we don't know much. In fact, I think we start out with cantrips and like 1 level 1 spell. Magic Missile. Oh, we do have Magic Missile. Magic Missile made it into Dungeon World. How about that? All right, so all my D&D players are rejoicing because Magic Missile is an auto-hit spell, which means you will always hit no matter what. Even if you... Actually, I don't even think you have to have line of sight. I think you just have to know where they are. Magic Missile auto-hits, it's great. You get 3 to 4 projectiles. The downside is you only roll a d4 worth of damage. At least early on. But Magic Missile is a lot of fun. So as a cantrip, which means we can just cast it over and over and over again, we can summon an unseen servant. We can cast light, or prestidigitation, which is the most overpowered spell in all of D&D. You can create sense, you can create sounds, you can clean up messes, you can create messes within about like a 1 foot cube or so. So first level spells, we can detect magic, we can cast telepathy, invisibility, charm person, magic missile, alarm, or detect magic. So sorry, my friend, you can't even summon a raindrop.
Follow-up question. Can we cast
Yes.
100 puddle messes?
Oh, does prestidigitation allow us to create water? So it's a minor trick of true magic. You can clean it, soil it, cool it, warm it, flavor it, or change its color, so no. But that's a great player question. That's a great player question. And I see you shaking your hand, maybe. The DM is saying no.
So the rule of cool, are you going to go over?
Okay, yeah. This is a good point. Fair point. I bow to your expertise. The DM stands corrected. Because as a DM, we are all bound by one all-powerful encompassing rule. It's like the genie's 3 rules. The DM has 1. And it's the rule of cool. The rule of cool is as follows, and I paraphrase. Is it cool? Go for it. But based on the description of prestidigitation, it doesn't say anything about creating something out of nothing. So it still has to, the rule of cool does not apply if it breaks the laws of physics or if it breaks the laws of magic. There are some limitations to the rule of cool, but for the most part, if you said that you wanted to do a triple somersault and dive face first into a puddle of water, I would let you roll for it. Because the rule of cool says, if that works, it'd be really cool. And everyone else at the table's going, if it doesn't work, it's going to be really funny because he's going to land on his head. All right, I had a question.
I lost my train of thought because I'm tired.
Welcome to my world, that's me every day.
To cool the fire.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Can you like freeze buckets of water?
It says you have to touch the fire.
There we go. All right, perfect. Okay, cool. So Shelby actually figured out how to use prestidigitation to better put out the fire. Her suggestion was we use prestidigitation to super cool the water. So Ethan is now standing next to the line of buckets. As it passes, we are going to roll 2d6 to see how well we cool these buckets. Cooler water, probably going to put out the fire faster. Make sense? Makes sense to me. So, as the DM, I say, give me an intelligence check. Because as a wizard, your ability to cast spells comes from your understanding of arcane knowledge. You study spell books, you learn a lot. Wizards are very intelligent. That also makes them very squishy. So, as a wizard, I'm going to ask you to make an intelligence check, which I think is a +1 in Dungeon World. If we filled out our character sheet, I'd know for sure. But rule of cool, and it's 8:22, and I'm over time already, but we're having fun. We're going to use prestidigitation, so roll me 2d6. So, we got an 8. Now, in Dungeon World, I don't roll anything against you. Is that a bag of dice?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I thought about bringing my bag, but that would be one more thing I'd have to put in my suitcase. Okay, so in Dungeon World, we rolled an 8 on our 2d6. That is below a 9, so that means that's a success with a complication. And so as the DM, this is where the storytelling aspect of my job comes back in. At an 8, that means it's a success, so we are cooling the water as it walks by, but there's a complication. And so as the DM, I'm going to think about what is a reasonable complication. You're a level 1 wizard. It may take you a little bit longer than the traditional 6 seconds to cast a spell. So yes, the water is getting cooled as these buckets pass, but it's taking you a little bit of time. That Latin is really hard to get out. The hand gesture, it's tricky. So it takes you a little bit more than 6 seconds for each bucket. So now, my collective Ethan, do we want to keep trying to put out the fire using by cooling the water, or do we think that more water is better than less but colder water? Somebody on this side.
More water is probably better.
More water is better. Okay. So are you going to grab a bucket now? No, you don't have to grow old to grab a bucket. All right, so Ethan is now grabbing a bucket and is joining the line of people and working to put out the fire. It takes about 20 minutes, but the fire is finally put out. You save most of the bar, and this is when I might just ask you to roll a dice. So give me, my collective Ethan, give me a d20 roll. So we're going to roll a d20. We got a 20. Which in D&D is really good. In Savage, it's even better. But in this case, okay, so I asked you to just give me a straight dice roll. Say again? In Savage Worlds. In Savage, this is Dungeon World. It's just like Linux distributions. They're all just alike enough to be infuriating. So we rolled a 20, so that was really good. So I'm going to say that we only lost about 10% of the bar. So all in all, the town really came together and it saved the bar. We put out a fire. Now, what do we do, Ethan? Someone on this side.
Investigate.
Okay, what are we investigating?
And make sure the taco ingredients are safe.
Making sure the what?
The taco ingredients are safe.
Okay, so we're going to check on the taco ingredients. Okay, so now, in Dungeons and Dragons, we would be making what's called an investigation roll. But oh, come on. There's got to be a different way of doing this. Single page, there we go, hey. Now we're going to go to our basic moves page, because that's all of our actions. Unlike D&D that has like 20 or 30 actions that you can take, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 things we can choose from. So, J. Scar here asked to investigate. In Dungeons and Dragons, there's a skill called Investigations. In Savage Worlds, it's called a Notice roll. In Dungeon World, it's called Discern Realities. And this is just kind of a generic term for basically looking around you, using your senses, using your knowledge to ascertain what reality is. So So what we're going to do here is we're going to roll our 2d6 again to discern realities. Now, there's a rule about D&D, or there's a rule about TTRPGs. As a player, don't say that I'm going to insert name of skill here. Just say what you're going to do. We're telling a story. Then someone asked if he needed to roll to pick up a bucket. So the answer would be no. Here's how you figure it. Something like picking up a bucket. Very easy to do. Anyone that has good mechanical skills, so if you're 2 years old and older and have any control over your body, picking up an empty bucket would be fairly easy. Now, if you were to ask, can I pick up the bucket, but we're on a ship in the middle of a typhoon and we're trying to scoop water out of the boat and back into the ocean, while one of our legs is frozen because some evil wizard cast a spell and one of our legs is now frozen until we can get it thawed, that is much more challenging. You're on a moving platform. Part of your body is not responding the way it should. There's wind. And so this is much more challenging. So instead of saying, I'm going to use XYZ skill, just say, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to pick up a bucket. The DM probably won't say anything. So you keep on going. You keep telling the story. Now, Shelby here used our first magic spell of the night. Congratulations. And so casting a spell requires concentration, it requires knowledge. It is a skilled check. So at that point, I stop the story and say, roll 2d6 to cast a spell, which we did and didn't do too bad. Which brings me back to, we're investigating. So we're discerning realities. So we're going to roll 2d6. We got a 6. That's a failure. So, as the DM, I'm going to tell you something like this. You wanted to check for ingredients. Bob is a brutal villain. He's cunning and crafty. You've seen his work before. But tonight, you check. The taco shells are there. You go deeper into the kitchen. Lettuce and tomato, fresh as if they were just picked. Then you go out back to the turtle pen. We rolled a 6, which is a failure. And as Collective Ethan, as you walk into the turtle pen, what you notice is there's about a dozen turtles, which is usually about what we have. Something odd about the turtles, they aren't moving very much, which is saying a lot for turtles. In fact, they seem like they're just sitting there. But there's a dozen turtles. So what I've done as the DM is I've dropped a clue that not all is right in the world. And so we might look a little closer at the turtles, or depending, and this is where having an understanding of your character and his motivations might come into play. There's turtles. Ethan's a wizard. He's very book smart. He doesn't have a degree in biology or animal handling or any kind of things like this. So, yeah, all the ingredients are there.
So, what would a 12 get us?
A 12, if we would have rolled a 12, you would have walked around the kitchen, noticed that all the indoor ingredients were there, but if we walked outside on a 12, you would have noticed that, in fact, there are 12 turtles, but they're made of cardboard and they're poorly painted with crayon to look like real turtles. But we failed. We got a 6. So those are turtles.
Well, let's just make tacos with them then.
Go for it. But they're cardboard.
So wait, are you allowed to poke turtle? The thing that you can do, like poke turtle?
Yes, that's
You're going to poke a turtle. Okay, so I'm going to reach into my knowledge of the mechanical system and say that, okay, poking a stationary turtle on the ground doesn't require a skill roll. Also, I'm going to assume that anyone that lives around turtles would know the difference between that's a turtle and that's not a turtle. So I'm going to say you walk up to one of these turtles, and for whatever reason, Ethan decides to poke the turtle on the head. Maybe the head snaps off, and you realize this is not a turtle. What do we do?
Do we know that it's cardboard because we're only level 6?
With the last roll lingering, I want to say we're not sure what the material is, but that's definitely not a turtle.
Scoop it up and then bring it to like the mayor. Ask.
Okay, so we're going to scoop up the turtle. Again, it's a cardboard turtle, no strength check required. So we're not going to roll.
Phone a friend.
Don't peeve off the DM, or otherwise something as simple as picking up a turtle becomes a dexterity check, which is fun. Because if you fail, you'll fall on your face and I get to laugh. So you scoop up said turtle. Now missing its head. Do we pick up the head too?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to pick up this turtle body and this turtle head that are now separated from one another, and we know something's not right here. So you walk up to the mayor and present the turtle. And we're in the good old South, so I'll bring Merle's accent in. Which, by the way, as a DM, you don't have to do voices. Those of you that have watched Critical Role and seen Matt Mercer work, you're not a trained voice actor. Don't do voices. And here I am, I'm going to try anyway. So because we're in the good old South at Southeast Linux Fest, we're going to say that our town leader here has a good old Southern accent. Well, it looks like Bob there, he done replaced our turtles with something that ain't a turtle. In fact, that looks like cardboard. In fact, if you look on the inside of that's a cereal box. That Bob the villain, hey, Bob the villain instead of Bob the builder. This is a mirror universe where Bob is not a builder, he's a villain. I love it. If anyone wants to spend a penny from Savage Worlds, we'll make that canon. That, more or less, is kind of a glimpse of what TTRPGs are. You can get into all kinds of weird shenanigans. You can come up against gruesome villains. I've actually been emotionally moved by a scene. A character will save some children from something dangerous, or one of your players actually dies the final death. And a character that you've put your heart and soul into, and if you're like most people, have put a bit of your own self into, and you see it die in the middle of a battle, it's kind of moving. It's a lot of fun. I could go on all night, but I encourage each and every one of you to give this a try. If you've been thinking about it, if you've been curious about it, go find a gaming group. There are so many resources out there. If you wanna watch other people play Dungeons and Dragons, just search YouTube. I mentioned Critical Role. That's one of the most popular. It is unbelievable that a bunch of nerdy voice actors in California got together to play Dungeons and Dragons in somebody's basement. And then years later, they're literally making millions of dollars with a Twitch stream. So check out Critical Role. If it's too flashy, if it's too produced for your taste, there's others like Dimension 20. Gosh, there's so many out there. And there's semi-professional and professional groups out there that play just about every system you can possibly imagine, from Pathfinders, Savage Worlds, to Dungeons and Dragons. The team behind Critical Role actually were the ones to come up with Daggerheart. So they've built their own system, which ironically they haven't been using. You can go to the RPG subreddit. If you want to take a stab at telling the story, if you want to be the DM, there's guides out there, there's tutorials out there, YouTube, social media, blogs. One that I like to use is called The Lazy Dungeon Master, because I was a lazy systems administrator and also a lazy dungeon master. So he gives you tips on how to plan sessions, none of which were helpful for tonight. None of the resources have anything on how do you play D&D with a group of 10 to 100. What we did tonight was called Theater of the Mind. I painted a picture that you put into your brain, and we interacted a little bit with our world. We saved the tavern from burning to the ground, or we saved the tiki bar from burning to the ground. If you want the classic battle maps with 1-inch square grids and all the different all the different minis and you want to do it virtually, I highly recommend Foundry Virtual Tabletop, VTT, which if you're a home labber and a self-hoster, guess what? You can host your own. On my home lab is my WordPress website, Minecraft server, Valheim server, and Foundry VTT. There's also Roll20. Those are two of the most popular virtual tabletops, VTTs, virtual tabletops, out there. So check out Foundry or Roll20. And if you are dead set on Dungeons and Dragons, you can get all of the books, modules, rule sets, characters, classes, all that kind of stuff on D&D Beyond. You can buy both physical copies and you can buy digital copies, which will allow you to build virtual character sheets. And you can even click on the skill inside D&D Beyond and it'll roll the dice for you. It'll do all the math for you, which if you're just learning, I highly encourage. And then once you kind of have a feel for the game, then you print out your character sheet from D&D Beyond and you get your tray of dice that costs you probably well over $200 at this point. And you play on good old-fashioned pen and paper. That's my preference, but mostly because I spend all day on the computer. And then when I get together with friends, I want a bourbon on the rocks and pen and paper in front of me. One of the most amazing things about the last decade or so, between The Big Bang Theory, Stranger Things, all the Marvel movies, is nerd life is commonplace now. It's doing nerdy things is no longer the socially alienating thing that it was when I was in high school. And so, as such, there is a huge resurgence of hobby game stores, from board games to Foundry, or tabletop role-playing games, comic books. And so, in fact, not 5 blocks from my apartment is a place called Tabletop, and right next door to that is Cardboard Corner. Tabletop is a traditional board game store with literally thousands of titles, dice, cards, board games, modules for D&D, literally thousands upon thousands of titles spanning all the things. And what I love about Tabletop is right next door is Cardboard Corner, and guess what? They have chicken and waffles and alcohol. They have tables everywhere, tables and couches, and you can literally go to a nerd bar and play nerd games until 1 o'clock in the morning. Don't ask me how many times we've shut it down, it's in the dozens. So nerd culture is normal. So if you want to try this out, but none of your friends are brave enough to play, go to your local tabletop shop. They will probably have a sign-up sheet. They always have people that are looking for new players, new dungeon masters. There's games that play every night of the week. If you're interested in tabletop role-playing games, we're all here at a tech conference. The thing that I can tell you is really, really nice to have a hobby that does not require sitting in front of a computer in a room by yourself all day. This is how I unwind after spending all week talking to all of you, whether in person or or online. I go to Cardboard Corner. I have a Rieger's whiskey, and I spend hours making stories with friends. Like I said to open it, like I said in the opening, some of my favorite adventures with my friends never actually happened because they happened around a table, and if you stick around afterwards, I have dozens of stories of things that our characters have done, things that our players have said, that just makes it so much fun. Literally would spend hours telling stories. And the funny thing is, when you meet other D&D players, that's usually what happens, is you end up swapping stories. So, with that said, thank you so much for coming to my talk. This was Introduction to Tabletop Role-Playing, and even had a semi-hands-on workshop. So I've been Eric the IT Guy Hendricks. Check out my podcast, The IT Guy Show, where often I talk about technology and how to try and automate my D&D games. That QR code will take you to my Linktree. Please connect with me online. Let me know you came to this talk. And if you have constructive feedback, please let me know. Once again, thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of the event.